Am I the asshole for not letting my daughter's boyfriend stay the night? A few nights ago it was snowing and -degrees outside. That night my daughter's, 16 female, boyfriend, 17 male, drove to our house to visit her. As he was about to leave he noticed his car door was frozen shut and he couldn't get in it. I was willing to pay for him to get an Uber home, but the app kept saying there were no drivers available. He asked if he could stay the night and try to defrost his car door in the morning. That obviously wasn't happening. He's not allowed to stay the night under any other circumstances, so why would this time be any different? So he just walked back home, and honestly it was only a 15-minute walk. My daughter was and is still currently upset with me for making him walk home, in that weather. She says I was being inconsiderate and anything could have happened to him. To be fair, it was only 15 minutes and he made it out just fine. Am I the asshole? Info. Would you have been okay with your daughter walking home alone in those conditions? Yes, you are the asshole. You risked his life because you were unwilling to let him sleep on the couch. You also could have presumably driven him home. Info. Would you be okay if his parents made your kid walk home under those conditions? Why would this time be any different? Because this was different. If you don't want your teen sharing a bed, and that's a whole can of worms in itself, do you really not have a couch he could have slept on? You are the asshole, obviously. Imagine it had been your daughter stuck at his house, and his parents had made her walk home. You'd be furious. Flip this scenario and think about it for a minute. Your daughter was visiting her boyfriend. It starts snowing, she can't get in her car, his parents say, "No, you can't sleep here and we won't drive you home either, you can walk." See if you can work out just how angry you'd be and then see if you can answer the AITA question yourself. Am I the asshole for screaming at my sill and kicking her out of my house? My husband, 36M, and I, 34F, have been foster parents for the past 6 years. We usually only had short-term placements, around 4-8 months or so. Then 2 years ago, we had Caden placed with us. He was 4 at the time. It was supposed to be another short-term placement, but then things changed and it became clear he was going to be with us for a while. After a year, we were told his plan was likely changing to adoption. We decided we would if that happened. Eventually, we were told we were going to be able to. My brother's wife, Denise, 40F, was adopted at birth and originally, was a great resource for us. We've always done our research to be trauma-informed and best help any child in our care. Things were fine until we shared we were going to adopt Caden. Denise said that we were stealing a child from his family and we should fight to keep him with his family despite no family stepping up. And #X200B. Well, in the end, a relative did step up and applied for kinship. They received custody of Caden and will likely adopt them. It is truly the best thing for Caden to stay in the family, but it doesn't mean that it isn't extremely hard on everyone involved. We raised him for 2 years, love him, soothed every nightmare, fever, etc. We built a bond. It was also hard to explain to him why it went from, "We're adopting you," to, "You're going to live with," insert relative that he didn't know well. Caden was reunited with the family member in January after only a 1 week's notice. The family has also decided we shouldn't see Caden. It's their right and we understand, but we've been essentially cut off from his life and we'll never see him again. It's hard. And #X200B. My husband and I have gone through a grieving period. We decided to take a break from fostering. We recognize this was the best thing, but it doesn't make it any easier. Most of our family has been pretty understanding and supportive as we work through our grieving. Everyone except Denise. She keeps saying what a wonderful thing this is and we need to stop being sad, that it's not about us. And #X200B. On Saturday, she and my brother came over. We were having a decent day until I came across a picture of Caden on my phone. I got a little teary and had to leave the room for a moment. I returned and apologized. Denise got snippy and said, "You need to cut this out. He wasn't your child. This is what's best for him. If you truly loved him, you'd be over this by now." I was still kind of upset and mixed with everything I was going through. I screamed at her that she was an insensitive little bitch and she only looks through things from her perspective. I said I understand she resents her adoptive parents, but that doesn't mean we were wrong for wanting to adopt Caden. She tried arguing with me, but I threw her out of my house. She left in a huff. And #X200B. My brother has since called and said he understands that Denise is candid, but I was wrong to scream at her and I could have handled it better. Am I the asshole? My brother has since called and said he understands that Denise is candid. Candid? Is that what we're calling assholes these days? Quick, someone create am I candid? Not the asshole. This was heartbreaking to read. My condolences and may there be brighter days in your future. As a former CPS worker, I am upset that the kinship relationship wasn't developed quicker. 2 years and a possible adoption was too long to put the child and opt through. And this stuff about family always being better, well, some families have generational trauma that affects their ability to function to raise healthy children. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, you were just being candid. If it's any comfort, remind yourself you were there for that little boy when he needed you and gave him all the love you could. Not the asshole. I'm so sorry for what you are going through, op. I cannot imagine being parent, let alone a foster parent of even a puppy. I would immediately be attached. 2 years is a long time, especially in those early years of development. In an odd way, this is very much like a breakup. There's a grieving process and it will take a long time. If you have the resources, I would suggest possibly counseling to help develop coping mechanisms. As for your Sil, it sounds like her reaction was coming from a place of related trauma. You absolutely shouldn't be over it by now. Anyone who says you should be isn't thinking clearly or lacks empathy. Not the asshole, you are perfectly capable of being glad that Caden is with his birth family and will have a permanent home while also grieving the loss of someone you cared for and loved dearly and was part of your family. Am I the asshole for letting my roommate go hungry because they cannot understand how food works? My roommate, Tammy, and I are both on fairly limited budgets. I get a little help from my parents, so I have a little bit of a buffer in my income. I tend to make meals for myself where I will have leftovers so I can skip making myself a lunch or a dinner later in the week. Tammy, on the other hand, makes each meal as precisely as she can so she doesn't waste money. Just two different ways of looking at meals, I guess. Just after Christmas last year, Tammy was very low on money and asked if she could please have some of my leftovers. I agreed. Instead of serving herself a small portion to see if she would like my food, she just took a full portion. She ate about a quarter of what she took and threw the rest in the trash. I didn't say anything. Almost the exact same thing happened 2 weeks ago. This time I asked her to please just try a little before she took a full portion. She said she was really hungry. Almost an entire meal in the trash. 2 nights ago she asked for my spaghetti. I said no. It isn't really going to affect me for her to throw away a meal. But it means she is wasting not just my money I spent on the food but also my time I spent getting the ingredients and preparing the food. She isn't talking to me, but she is complaining to other people about me being cheap and letting he starve. I'm not. I actually gave her a box of generic mac and cheese for her to eat. I'm just not going to watch my hard work literally go in the garbage. She thinks I'm being an asshole because I won't share my food. I would share if she wasn't wasting it. Not the asshole. You tried to be kind and help her out when she was in need. Then she threw your help in the trash. She is the asshole. Plus, holy crap, you even gave her food she could make for herself. Not the asshole. She's wasting food and you're not her mother. Not the asshole. Don't take what you won't eat, is an easy rule most kids learn. She is complaining to other people about me being cheap and letting he starve. Lol, what are you, her parent, carer? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You checked all the boxes of being a decent human being. You did not complain the first time she threw away the food. You asked nicely for her to try a little first the second time, and the third time you gave her a box of mac and cheese. You are definitely more understanding, empathetic and patient than the average person would have been in this situation. Am I the asshole for siding with my 35 fiancé, 26, over my daughter after they got into a huge argument? I share custody with my 17-year-old daughter. I get her every 2 weeks and she'll come and live with me and my fiancé. I work as an nurse, so I have weird shifts sometimes. This leaves my fiancé and daughter alone together a lot. I thought it would be good for them to get some girl time with each other. I was wrong. They don't really get along. Part of me thinks it's her mother's influence because her mother hates my fiancé. So this situation started Friday night. That morning she asked me she could go out with some friends that night and I said sure. Her curfew is 11 p.m., which I don't think is unreasonable for a teenage girl. She knows this and knows she will be punished if she doesn't show at 11. That night I had to work, so I asked my fiancé to make sure she was back home safe and sound by 11. I've never had a problem with her missing curfew, so I didn't worry about it. I went to work at 8 p.m. and didn't make it home till around 9 a.m. When I got home my fiancé was up and clearly distraught. She told me that my daughter came back home past curfew and when she confronted her on it, my daughter lost her temper and went off. After talking to her, I spoke to my daughter who said that she was only a few minutes late and that my girlfriend overreacted and tried to punish her. So typically I don't like to take sides and just try to find some middle ground between them. But this time I could actually check everything by looking out our home sec cameras. My daughter didn't get home until 1 a.m. I interpreted this as my daughter not being fully truthful, so I sided with my partner. I punished my daughter by taking her car keys and stopping her allowance. She and her mother have in response both accused me of caring more about my fiancé more than my daughter, which isn't true. Am I the asshole? Everyone sucks here. Yes, should be punished if she was 2 hours late for her curfew. Even more so because she lied about it. But your fiancé is not her parent and is in no position to discipline her. That is on you. You are the asshole. Your fiancé is only 9 years older than your daughter. You're setting them both up for failure if you ask your fiancé to take on a parental role with your daughter, especially when they already don't get along. By all means have a curfew and confront your daughter if she doesn't follow it, but don't make it something between your daughter and fiancé. Everyone sucks here. Fiancé has no business confronting her on it. That's your job. Not the asshole. 2 hours is not a few minutes. You set a boundary and she violated it. Actions have consequences and she needs to learn this. Plus she lied to you. Not the asshole. If your daughter had truly just been a few minutes, 11:10 11:20-ish, I'd be telling you to stretch a bit. 2 hours is more than a few minutes. Coupled with your daughter's aggressiveness with your fiancé, the punishment feels appropriate.